Hey guys, and welcome back. In today's video we are going to be looking at some confessions on Reddit. Now there are quite a lot of juicy ones that I probably couldn't put on YouTube, so do go have a look because there's some proper spicy ones going down. But let's get started. I broke one of my bones on purpose to get out of going to school as a kid. When I, 16 male, was 9, I really hated school. I would do anything in my power to get a day off. Fake sick days, faking a high temperature, fake vomit, and so on. I got away with this for so many years, but people were catching on and getting suspicious. We had a trampoline buried in the ground in our yard, and while I was on it one evening, I had a thought. If I broke a bone, then I can't go to school for weeks. I was jumping really high, thinking about how to do it, and I rotated my leg so I'd land on my ankle and it would hit the metal frame and springs. I didn't think it was possible to feel that level of pain, not just my leg but all through my body. I landed on the side of my ankle and my whole leg literally cracked. Oh my god. I don't know how I didn't do more damage than I did, to be honest. I spent the whole night in the hospital, and to my delight I was put in a full leg cast, thigh to ankle, and sent home the next evening. Funnily enough, it didn't give me much time from school. I had 1 week of glorious breakfast in bed, video games and terrible daytime TV. And then I had to use crutches for weeks on end at school, with people constantly trying to draw on my cast. I feel bad about this. I've never confessed, and I don't think I can now after so many years. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to blatantly hurt myself for this kind of thing. I'm almost worried for myself. I was, and still might be, a little bit psychotic. Edit, people who are generally concerned for my welfare, I'm okay. I ended up being homeschooled for about a year after this. I just had some awful teachers, and the school actually ended up being shut down a while after I left. I'm seeking therapy for non-related issues. That is a little bit, that's mad. To put yourself through pain deliberately so you don't have to go to school is a bit extreme. Like, couldn't you just talk to your parents and be like, I'm having a tough time, I don't like it, can we look at alternatives, can I be homeschooled? Because what you did was, it was very drastic, and you're lucky that you only broke your leg and you didn't break your neck. I mean, seriously, that's a little bit mad, to be honest with you. Yeah. I'm glad you're okay though. Okay, moving on. I've been lying about my age for nearly 7 years. Basically just what the title says. I joined social media in the 6th grade and quickly made tons of friends online, but they were all 13 to 14 when I was just an 11-year-old kid, so I lied about being 3 years older than I actually am. I'm close to turning 18 soon, and the guilt has been eating me alive, but I'm just so heartbroken by the idea I'll lose friendships I've built over these past years. I'm sure most people probably wouldn't care enough to end the friendship with me because quite a few of them are around my age anyway, 17 to 21. But I'm sure it would cause my reputation to be tarnished, and the few adults who are already much older than me to be disgusted about being friends with such a youngin'. For example, I have a friend who's so supportive and has been so nice to me who's 24, and I feel they might be disgusted with knowing I'm actually 6 years younger than they are. I also just know so many people who have built a supportive community around me, and even though my current real relationships aren't bad at all, I've essentially grown up with these people and gotten attached to them. Lately I just feel so guilty and trapped. So many great things have been happening lately and I want to talk about them, but obviously I can't. I recently, yesterday, came clean to 2 of my friends that I've known for the past 6 years, and they took it really well, but they're also around my age and have never been serious people. So I assume their reactions would be drastically different than some of my other friends who will be if I decide to come clean about it. They don't really have an opinion on the whole thing because they're okay with still being friends. I've actually joked with me and laughed with me about the whole thing and aren't pressuring me to tell the truth. But one of them is concerned I'll become very overwhelmed and it'll just spill out anyways in the future if I don't just come clean now like I did with them. I'm also scared because I had a relationship with someone at the age of 12 when she was 15. I'm ashamed to admit I didn't see anything wrong with this at the time, and we also frequently talked explicitly. And we're great friends now and have been only friends for the past 5 years now, but I know she'd probably feel disgusted if she found out. I don't want to lose her because of the history between us, but I also understand I'm way in over my head for the reality of my age. I'm so frustrated and disgusted with myself too for letting it go on this long. I'm definitely not saying I'm mature, because if I was, this would never have happened, but I'm extremely academically intelligent and assume most of the people don't suspect me because of how I carry myself. Should I keep going until I can decide I can move on, such as delete my account suddenly, or make the move to tell the truth? Okay, I don't think the majority of people are going to care. Everyone lied about that you should get a Facebook account when it came out. Like, that just, I know that happened. A lot of my friends made out that they were older so they could get a Facebook account. So I don't think any of them are really going to care as much as you think they are. Apart from this girl you had a relationship with. Now, I imagine from what you've said, these are online girls. This is an online relationship, sorry, with this girl. So nothing physical ever happened. But obviously you did lead her on with false information. So I think she deserves to know that actually you're not the age you said you were. Because that's really unfair on her. And that's a little bit, that's over the line. Like, okay, at the time you didn't realise, but now you do. You have the power to do something about it, and I really recommend that you do. So I think you just kind of have to suck it up and go, look, hands up. I was a kid, I was stupid, but I'm coming clean now. Because, yeah, the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get. And the fact that you spoke explicitly with a girl who assumed you were of a similar age, it's not really on. You need to say something. If not to everyone, but to her at least. I used to pick my friends mostly based on looks. Too ugly, next. Too pretty, next. Somewhere in the middle. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so a little bit of background just for context is, I was raised by narcissists, and specifically a narc mother who was always commenting on other girls' bodies and looks in super critical ways. I knew deep down that everyone was equal and looks shouldn't matter. I think subconsciously I did this because I heard my parents speak on looks so much, I just went with it without question. Unfortunately, it wasn't until my 30s that I really set aside all care of other looks, mostly because I did the work to heal the insecure parts of me that even cared. I'm sure it's no surprise that I fell into the mean girls group at one point, and only years later did I accept that I was one for a while. Being raised by toxic people can corrupt even the best intentioned people. It is hard because behaviour breeds behaviour, so you're going to see a certain way being demonstrated, being displayed, and you're going to pick up on that behaviour. So it is great that you realise and you're not like that anymore, because if you fell with the mean girls, and I mean, I've been on the receiving end of bullying and it's never fun. So I'm just, yeah, I don't know what to really tell you. I think as kids, I mean, you haven't really actually mentioned how old you are now versus how old how old you were when this was happening, but you were dealt a hard hand because the way that your mum conducted herself and the way that your parents displayed their behaviour. That's hard because you're going to see and you're going to act the way you are. At least you're seeing where you are now, and kids will be mean, kids will pick on other kids for their looks or the way they dress and things like that. That unfortunately just happens, but you know, at least you've realised, and hopefully you don't do that anymore. So we've got a super duper long one now. Popped a tyre so he wouldn't drive home drunk and pretended it must have been an accident. So I'm not proud of this, but my drunk brain couldn't think of a better solution on the spot. So I'm at the VFW with my dad and sister, drinking with my dad. He gets pretty drunk, and I asked him when he wanted to get going, and he said he'll be good in an hour to drive and that he wants us, sister and me, to follow him. My sister is my DD, designated driver I'm assuming, since she doesn't drink, and she whispers to me that she's worried we won't be good in an hour. So we asked Dad to just take a ride with us since my sister lives with my parents and we're just going back to the house. I tell him the car can wait and be picked up tomorrow. He refuses and says he'll be fine. Oh, this gives me weird feelings. He's had a crap ton of shots and a good couple drinks, and alarm bells are starting to go off to not let him drive. I love my dad, but he is so stubborn, so I know the only person who can convince him to not drive while buzzed or drunk is my mum. Because of this, my mum is the only one who drives him home from the VFW, but she's out of town for the next 2 weeks. So I'm like, oh poop, I need to get other people in on this. I go around asking people we know to get their opinions if he'd be okay, and they all agree he isn't. I tell them I need their help to convince my dad to not drive. A couple of people talk to him and mention, hey, you should let your daughter drive, and he laughs it off and says he's fine. It was frustrating. The only solution we were able to come up with was one person behind him and one person in front. My gut is telling me to not let him drive. So I go out to my car because I was going to leave it at the VFW overnight and grab my knife and pop his tyre. That was the only solution I could think of. I think if I was drunk, that would probably be the one that I'd come up with, is let's stop him from driving, let's do something to the car to stop him from driving. I mean, you probably could have tried to take his keys, just a thought, but you know, when you're a bit inebriated yourself, all ideas seem like good ideas, right? End of the night, my dad gets in his car and is about to drive, and I go over and I'm like, oh no, you have a flat. He is like, we can drive to Sheets to get air in it. It took 2 days to convince him to not drive because the tyre was flat, and he was in denial. He hops into my sister's car bitching about the flat. We all got home safely, but I told my sister I popped his tyre and she called me an immature and excessive. I believe it was excessive, but I didn't know what else to do, and I was also drunk. I just didn't want to lose my dad to something I could have prevented. So was I wrong? I just want my dad to be safe, and I wish he would take it more seriously. Okay, so there's a couple of edits that we'll go through before I give my thoughts. So the first edit, I received lots of comments saying I should have just let the air out instead of puncturing the tyre, so I want to clarify a couple of things. 1, I was also drunk, so I wasn't thinking clearly. 2, even if I did think to let the air out, that means I would have had to be pressed down on the valve, which can be time consuming. I would have most likely been caught doing so, and I knew we were planning on leaving in about 20 minutes. 3, I tried to make the puncture wound tiny as possible to make it look like something else may have got into it, but my inebriated brain had poor judgment, so it came out to a 1-inch slash. Edit 2, a lot of people have been asking why I didn't just trick him into giving me his keys. And for those who have experience with drunk people, know why, and thank you for saying so in the comments. For those who don't know, trying to take keys from a drunk person who thinks they're confident enough to drive is the equivalent of trying to take a ball away from a golden retriever, near impossible. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time this has happened. 7 years ago, when he came to visit me when I lived in Florida, we got pretty drunk with my friends. At the end of the night, he tried to drive drunk, which surprised me because this was the first time I'd ever gotten drunk with my dad and thought he was smarter than that. It took me and 7 of my friends to take away his keys, which only happened because one of them was brave enough to tackle my dad and grab them. I had to call my mum and put her on the phone with my dad, and that was the only way he calmed down enough to take a taxi home. He didn't talk to me for 2 days because even after he sobered up, he was still convinced he would have been fine. So I wasn't about to try that again the other night. Yes, I now realise he needs help. I've been away from home the last 4 years and came home in 2022. Since I've been home, there wasn't any indication he would be dumb enough to do something like that again. But now I realise my mum has been home majority of the time frame to probably keep him in check. Edit 3. VFW stands for Veterans of Foreign War and is a club for military vets and their spouses and family members. My mum is the veteran. Update. So I forgot that VFW has security cameras, and although my intention was to replace the tyres, I realised I had to replace them before my dad noticed that it was slashed. Things didn't work out as planned since we all woke up around the same time. My sister and I tried to ditch my dad before he had the chance to notice, but caught us. So we went to breakfast together, then went over to the VFW to grab our cars. He has a portable air compressor, so his plan was to just reinflate when we got there, but obviously that didn't work. He started cussing up a storm when he noticed the tyre was slashed, and my sister decided to take him back home. As fate would have it, he decided he didn't want to mess around with it and decided to nap, which gave me enough time to go back to the car with a jack and take off the tyre, run over to get a new tyre and put it back on. My sister helped me throughout the entire process, and thank God she did, because taking off the old tyre was tough. Had to jump on the tyre iron to loosen the bolts. Anyway, she drove the car home before my dad could wake up from his nap. He obviously was confused why I replaced the tyre, and I just told him I wanted to help him out. He thanked me, said he would pay me back, but I don't plan on accepting it. I'm waiting for my mum to return from being out of town so we can all be together when I tell my dad the truth, and hopefully she will back me up. I just hope my dad doesn't decide to go through the security footage before she gets back. Update 2. So my dad ended up going through the security footage and found out it was me. He wasn't mad, as he thought as I thought he would have been, but I'm not sure how to respond. This is what he ended up texting me. I'm very shocked after I viewed the video from Friday at the club. Now I know why you are so concerned with replacing my tyre. What the hell? If you believe someone shouldn't drive, there would be many other options. I had a gummy and only a few drinks and a couple of shots over 5 hours. Normally that would be me warming up, so I guess me having a great night you assumed I was drunk. I have a very high tolerance, so I'll put this event behind me. I'm not sure how to respond to this because 1, I know it's more than a few and he had 2 shots and 2 drinks in the last hour. 2, him having a gummy and drunk probably wouldn't do him any favours behind the wheel. And 3, I feel like I tried other options that night, but he obviously thought he was fine. I'm tempted just to tell him I won't pop another tyre again as long as he doesn't argue with me when I asked him to have my sister and I take him home instead. However, I know he won't take this seriously. Any ideas how to respond? Could you not have called your mum? Could you say that when you're in Florida you called her and she was able to talk your dad down from trying to drive, so could you not have done that again in this situation? Whilst maybe your execution wasn't ideal, what you did potentially saved lives. Who knows what could have happened, and I think you, although you wouldn't have been to blame, you would have had that on your conscience because you were trying to stop it. I feel as though you've done a good thing. Like I say, execution wasn't perfect, but you've done something that is probably many people don't realise how your action potentially saved them that night. When it comes to responding, obviously you can say to him, well, if you are willing to not drive after you've been drinking in the future, this won't happen. Or maybe, you know, you can do something alternative, like your sister just takes you all. Like, why were there 3 different cars? I guess maybe you met there, but would the easiest thing to be to, like, you know, this won't happen again if you let sister drive you. She's a designated driver, she doesn't drink. Therefore no one has to worry, you can carry on with your night and it'll all be fine. So I think there's compromise that can be had, but someone needs to have a serious conversation with him because it's not behaviour you really want. It is a tough one, but I don't think what you did was wrong. It's just unfortunate that he kind of found out about it. I'm gifting my best friend a re-gift for her birthday. My best friend, who I've known for 5 years, is having her 16th birthday in a couple of days. My family is really struggling financially and I can't afford buying anything, so I'm giving her a bracelet I never wore. However, she doesn't know that it's a re-gift. Honestly, I'm not planning to tell her. I have the box I got the bracelet in, but not the bag, so I'm just going to put it in another bag. I actually love that bracelet, so it's not like I'm trying to get rid of it, but I still feel guilty because I lied to her. I really hope she doesn't notice, but I am totally a poop friend, lol. There's no gift receipt, I told her that I lost it. The worth of the bracelet is actually the same amount I would have given her if I had any money, but in my heart I know I didn't put effort to choose something for her. There's nothing wrong with your re-gifting. It's rather, I mean, it's a shame that you like the bracelet and obviously you probably would love to have kept it, but you're giving it to someone that you love just as much. You're giving it to someone that you'd like to see the bracelet with. There's nothing wrong with re-gifting in my mind. It saves a lot of things from going to landfill, for one, but also the fact that you weren't just like, I can't afford something, like you're not going to get anything. You made a sacrifice and you made the effort to get her something you knew that she would like. Now it doesn't matter, and I don't think you lied to her, because unless you said I brought this for you, then you've not lied. Maybe when you've got a job and you're able to do something a bit more, then you can do something to kind of ease your guilt, I guess. But there's nothing wrong with giving someone a gift that you already held. As long as you're not re-gifting it to the person who gave it to you, then I think you're good. I think you'll be okay. That's all we've got time for today, guys. I hope you liked this video, exploring lots of different things going on Reddit at the moment. Make sure you hit that subscribe bell. We're posting 2 times a week, so make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss any of that. Leave a like, leave a comment, helps me out a lot, and I'll catch you in the next one.